And I think
Right.
the cover up is the thing that, as I always say, it's always worse than the actual crime of whatever it was, the enablers and the amount of people it took to enable him to turn the other cheek to a convicted child sex offender and to say, yeah, we know about that, but actually I still want to do business with you or go to your island or, and that's the part that I think is so confronting for people. But where does it end? Well, I think we're going to see a lot more. I think,
Mm.
we've got 6 million documents. This is unprecedented where you have a case where you have 6 million
Right.
documents that evidence abuse, photographs, videos, emails, and yet we still just have one woman in prison in America, Ghislaine Maxwell. And that is also representative of what goes on. It's always women that get
Hmm.
targeted and they get the longer sentence. But I think the public are doing the right thing, not allowing it to go away. And that's what we have to keep doing on social media, on the internet. We have to keep using our voices. The
Absolutely.
survivors are incredible. They are hard at it, showing up and not letting the administration or anyone just ignore their voices and who they are. And you've got a lot of other people lifting them up. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It only changes with our collective rage and us saying, no, this is a turning point. We are not going to have paedophiles as leaders, as
Hmm.
politicians. We're not going to have those individuals running our countries telling us, the good folk, what to do. So I think there's still much more to come, unfortunately. Virginia lit the match, and
Right.
Virginia Roberts Dufresne, I just want to pay credit to her because
Mm.
she was the lone voice in the wilderness for so long, and she lit the match, and it's up to all of us to finish it. And if it means burning everything down, as Pam Bondi said, oh, the DOJ, we can't deal with this
Hmm.
level, so be it.
Right. That's what we need at this point. And Virginia's family obviously carrying this torch. I know you're in contact with them, and I've read her book. It is incredible. We are taping this episode at a time when there's this quote unquote discovery, which doesn't seem shocking to many of us, that there are missing files, right? Which we could have predicted. And when you compare this to, say, Watergate and the, blank space in the tape that we learned about in history years ago, I mean, that pales into comparison to what we are experiencing right now. And it does feel in the hopeful moments, I think, that there is this tsunami growing. Do you feel that more regular folks who maybe didn't pay attention before are now doing a double take, are now caring? I mean, these people have children. These people have mothers and sisters, even if they are men.
Exactly. And look, I'm seeing doctors speaking out now. There's some brilliant doctors on social media who are making the point that Epstein had multiple doctors on his payroll and they swore an oath to safeguard and protect. They're mandatory reporters. So we have the names and people are calling, not just for resignations, there should be arrests, there
Hmm.
should be prosecutions and convictions, and more people are speaking up. And I always praise people when I see someone taking that leap on social media, particularly men, because often
Hmm.
it's left to women to always speak up. But so I always say thank you to women, but I also pay attention to the men who are speaking out, and we need more of them. So
Absolutely.
that's how we create change. We say it's unacceptable and we shun those individuals from our families and our communities, but
Hmm.
we demand the accountability in terms of the arrest, the investigation, the arrest and the prosecution and conviction. And we're seeing it in other countries. We're just not seeing it in America, which I think, is bearing in mind that these were ostensibly crimes that were committed here in America, not
Hmm.
exclusively, and bearing in mind that Epstein was an American citizen, and bearing in mind his connection with Alex Acosta, and all the things
Exactly.
that we have seen and the people implicated. And yet there's one British woman in prison who quite rightly should be there, Ghislaine Maxwell, but she's not the only one. These are actually male perpetrated crimes. And I know that women tend to go along with them to meet the men's needs rather
Hmm.
than them being the active sex offender. So again, with the girls who were also coerced into bringing women in to create this supply chain of girls and women, those in particular victims, I see them as victims, must remain and be seen as victims because they were coerced and trafficked themselves, and there was leverage. And I've also seen a lot of people say things like, oh, well, they're perpetrators too. Absolutely not. There's a power imbalance, and they were blackmailed. There was leverage on Virginia.
Right.
Epstein
Isn't that
threatened her
coercive control,
brother.
Laura?
Coercive
Yeah.
control. So again, we really have to understand the spider's web of coercive control, and that a young girl or a woman, and often we're talking about children, they didn't hold power in these situations, and certainly not with Epstein. And he made sure that they knew that, and threatening them, coercively controlling them, making them dependent, and all of the things he did to isolate them, to offer gifts,
Mm-hmm.
bribes effectively. This is all coercive control. And that's why we really have to untangle what it's about, because it's still invisible to so many.
Right. And from the very outset, they targeted vulnerable young women. I love what you said that, you know, they're not a rape victim, right? They're not an adult, they're a child, as you said many times. So, they should not be referred to as women. They are children. Um,
Well, we see them being called underage women, or we see children who are prostitutes, child prostitutes, and that's all the way sex offenders speak. Okay, so that's how they talk, sex offenders. I've worked on thousands of cases, and they will ensure that that this is about a a love of children, and that the age of consent is just arbitrary and it doesn't matter. And these are the things that
mhm.
Epstein would say, but it's now in our lexicon. And of course, reporters are reporting on it, and they're using that same language. And Epstein, rather than the 66 offences he should have been charged with, it was whittled down to two. And having sex with a child prostitute. Of course, there's no such thing as a
Right.
child prostitute. A child cannot consent. And that language has stuck. So we have to keep challenging it. And that's where everybody can be active. It's not just about, what I do or what you do. It's about what all of us do, and say that language is not acceptable because it's the language of patriarchy and the language of sex offenders.
Absolutely.